So guys, I've been playing around with Z46's unique augment quite a bit, and it's time to go over the results. On paper, the augment is pretty good, but the problem is that it came out at the same time as the rainbow gun, and is unable to take advantage of the rainbow gun. So while it improved her performance by quite a bit, the performance of her competitors also went up along with it. I've made a table here showing the difference between the 128mm SKC buffed by Z46's skill compared to the rainbow gun. I gave it 25% for the AP mod, adjusted for the enhanced ammo modifiers, and gave it another 6% for the 10% main gun crit rate buff. 6% being a rough estimate for how much damage increase 10% crit rate will give her. After the buffs, the gun performance is quite comparable to the rainbow gun, except against medium armor, where it blows the rainbow gun out of the water. Using the AP gun also improves her all-out assault performance, so it should be a no-brainer to just use the SKC on her, right? This would be nice and all, but unfortunately the story doesn't end there. First of all, I believe that the fire rate of the rainbow gun is actually a bigger increase in barrage damage than the augment due to the frequency of procs. Next, the damage across the board for the rainbow gun is potentially higher. Although it has 5 less FP, the AA portion of it actually helps its FP catch up to the AP gun due to Z46's skill, which turns AA into firepower. So if the skill is active, there is only a firepower difference of 1. Taking all of this into account, there is potential that the rainbow gun could outperform the augmented AP gun outside of strictly medium armor enemies, so I took her out for a test. I used Sumner with a +10 rainbow gun as the control because I've used her quite a lot, so I have a good idea of where she stands relative to other destroyers. And at the same time tested Otto to see if the Plymouth gun or 100mm would do better on her, as both guns have their cases. And fun fact, these are the same tests that I did while I was trying to figure out how AA works, so this is where the Vanguard AA came from. I chose to test them in Chapter 13 rather than the raid event because, as you will see from Z46's damage, it definitely needs the boost from shooting down planes with good uptime. Essentially, if you want to make the most out of her, Chapters 12 and 13 are really the only places you can use her, as she is quite lackluster without the buff that converts a part of her AA into firepower. I only recorded runs against 3-star battleship and 3-star carrier nodes because the other ones die too fast. Having to account for plane damage is quite troublesome, but fortunately I figured out how it's calculated. Refer to this video, which will be linked in the description for more details. So, let's take a look at the results. I did 5 runs with Z46 in the middle position, and 5 runs with Sumner in the middle for fairness. The top 10 runs are against carrier nodes, and the bottom 10 are against battleship. Otto herself is a tank, so I just left her in the same position. Otto with Plymouth gun and Sumner performed pretty much the same, while Z46 was quite a bit behind, even with her AA to FP buff active all the time. You can imagine that she would deal even less damage outside of plain hell chapters. Here's what it will look like if I multiply Z46's damage by 6% to simulate 200 affection stats. And she is still quite a bit behind. Next, let's look at both Otto and Z46's performance with the 100mm. Against the carrier nodes, Z46 had essentially the same performance between the two guns. But you can see that Otto's damage increased by a noticeable amount. Against battleship nodes, we can see that Z46's performance decreased noticeably. Since she dealt less damage, you would expect Otto and Sumner to deal more to compensate because the nodes have the same amount of HP. However, what you see is that while Sumner did in fact do more, Otto ended up with a lower average, meaning that her overall output decreased more than just the 2000 difference shown in the results. To wrap things up with this set of tests, I would personally favor the Plymouth gun on Otto, which is better in one type of node and worse in the other, but its range and pierce potential puts it over for me. But the difference is not huge, and the Plymouth gun is technically less accessible, so you're not losing much by using the Rainbow Destroyer gun. I can also draw upon some of the tests I ran against Gorizia to show Otto dealing more damage with the Plymouth gun against medium armor single target, but the sample size is a bit low. In regards to Z46, it seems like the AP gun is a bit better, but there are still a couple of things to consider. For one, when I tested the rainbow gun, I downgraded to a purple augment, but her unique augment has 11 more FP than dual swords, meaning that if you used her unique augment with the 100mm, the performance could be even closer. Furthermore, it is reasonable to assume that a typical player would upgrade a 100mm to plus 13, as it's good on pretty much all destroyers, but not the 128mm, in which case the 100mm will likely win. If you really like Z46 though, then perhaps the 128mm SKC is worth the upgrade to plus 13. Regardless, her damage does not stack up favorably to the other two destroyers featured in this set of tests. Anyways, that's the end of this topic. I hope you found it informative. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.